deep-rooted need for approval aggravated by the fact that I'm kind of short and green?
Nope, that's not it. You just can't draw.
Gosh. Thanks a lot, Piggy.
Wait until you get my bill.
Sheesh.
On poor old Charlie Brown. This is when he really suffers the most, when I suffer the most.
The next holiday to knock off the list would be My Valentine, Charlie Brown. Linus wants his teacher to be his Valentine, and his disinterest with Sally is continued, as well as continuing Lucy's desire to exploit Schroeder in marriage. And the little red-haired girl is, like, mentioned once, something you figured get more focus, because the title suggests a spiritual successor. So multiple pre-existing romantic conflicts are acknowledged, but it's super disorganized, unlike You're in Love, Charlie Brown, which had a consistent romantic objective. Also, seeing Snoopy eat chocolate with zero consequences is a nice visual gag. The rest of the crew feels bad for Charlie Brown for receiving 0 Valentines, so they try to make it up with him, so there's a little mistreatment. The ending is actually good, though. Schroeder suggesting that randomly giving Charlie Brown Valentines won't make anything better.
Where were you yesterday when everyone else was giving out Valentines? Is kindness and thoughtfulness something you can make retroactive? Don't you think he has any feelings?
And that could have come across as a rehash of Charlie Brown's All-Stars, but without a purpose, but here there is a more honest approach. There's love, sure, but not much of a plot. Speaking of All-Stars, You're a Good Sport, Charlie Brown sounds like a rehash of All-Stars, you know, 'cause sports. But it's actually about a bike derby, Charlie Brown failing miserably. It's the typical great race episode like Wacky Races without Dick Dastardly the Dick Man, baby. I never liked that type of episode growing up. Like, I used to watch Johnny Test unironically, and that had a handful of, like, racing competition episodes, and even I hated those episodes then. This one, it really isn't doing anything new, but has some really solid jokes. The joke of Charlie Brown and Snoopy crashing and mistakenly being sent to opposite hospitals is really funny, and it just randomly turning into the tortoise and the hare towards the end of the race.
A gift certificate for 5 haircuts.
Haircuts?
We couldn't get you the Pro Bowl tickets, Charles.
Having Charlie Brown win, but all for nothing, is funny and unique. But the holiday specials were clearly the bread and butter, so next we got It's Arbor Day, Charlie Brown. Yeah, an Arbor Day special. Now, not that I don't care about the environment, but a Arbor Day special? Arbor Day is a holiday that encourages planting and preserving trees, and Sally has to do a report on the holiday. So the crew participates by planting trees and gardening. Oh yeah. Given that it's springtime, the baseball season begins, and the gang plants trees all over the baseball field, the seasonal activities conflicting with one another. So they play baseball in a forest, resolving the conflict, and it's just a small amount of shenanigans, but we've already had a sports special, and what is even supposed to happen in an Arbor Day special? Can you even name another Arbor Day special? I can't.
Okay, Mom. Rerun is all set to go.
Does your mother take your little brother with her everywhere?
Uh-huh.
The special also marks the animated debut of Rerun. Rerun Van Pelt is Linus and Lucy's younger brother that was introduced in 1972. Rerun being a derogatory nickname provided by his siblings. His existence being a plot twist for his introduction. His actual name is never revealed, and he sort of actually got more focused towards the end of the comic run. This is also the last Peanuts project to feature the signature music of Vince Gualdry, as he passed away on February 6, 1976, from a heart attack. But his impact on the stylistic decisions of the franchise is still widely recognized and is often utilized and designed in the spirit of. But it's Arbor Day, nothing happens, it's pointless, but nowhere near the end of the chronology. So, since the brand was big enough to get an Arbor Day special, implying that it ran out of holidays due to sheer quantity, it got another chance on the big screen. Like I said, it was argued that Snoopy Come Home wasn't viable from studio bankruptcy. This was distributed by Paramount, a big dog company, so no marketing budget issues. Releasing a fat 5 years after Snoopy Come Home, seemingly restoring faith in the theatrical brand. The film Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown is about the gang going to summer camp. Bros Think They Fred 3. Camp on a pee-pee. Even though they already did that plot in It Was a Short Summer. Camp Shenanigans, a rival team of bullies. They lose at games.
I like the chow line.
There's so little unique jokes. It's just doing things that have been done before, and like, it is a really bland direction. Obviously, it's Peanuts. I'm not expecting there to be thrills, but like, nothing happens. Especially nothing to justify a feature-length runtime. It's barely an adventure, no significant character study or development, no experimental sequences, no depression, no Christianity. It's just camp. Given the title, a lot of the plot is spent on an overly long racing competition. The single competition is stretched out to an eternity. The generic bully group of antagonists who are completely forgot about halfway through, not winning. Like, I don't even know what's worse, a boring concept of a summer camp movie or a nothing concept of a rafting competition movie. Fun fact, The Simpsons episode Camp Krusty was originally supposed to be the plot of a Simpsons movie, which didn't happen in their peak of popularity. That is what this movie feels like, The Simpsons Camp Krusty movie that never happened. But that episode is actually good because it comes with a twist of the shithole of a camp being overrun by children in rebellion. The credits is legitimately the best part of the movie. It's the only instances of experimental color choices. It's only an hour and 17 minutes with credits, but it just feels like an eternity. There's like no information on the budgeting, but it made about $3 million, so I don't know if it was a failure or success or not, but it wasn't the last one, so it was probably successful. But back on TV, we got It's Your First Kiss, Charlie Brown, which is sort of a sequel to You're in Love, Charlie Brown. Excluding Valentine's Day, one of the main selling points being the reveal of the little red-haired girl, who, believe it or not, is a little girl with red hair. I would have never guessed.
That girl on the float, it's... You mean Heather? Heather? It's the little red-haired girl.
Her actual name, Heather, also being revealed. Heather being the homecoming queen, unknowingly at the expense of Charlie Brown, who was responsible for escorting her. He is also participating in the homecoming football team, so it's sports shenanigans and romance anxiety, and that's it. Two things that have been done better before combined, and the conclusion is revealed in the title, Nothing Happens, It Sucks. But not as nightmarish as What a Nightmare, Charlie Brown. So during a harsh winter, Snoopy eats like 5 pizzas and drinks 3 root beers, and he has a nightmare about being an Alaskan hunting dog. Get it? Snoopy has to be an actual dog instead of a beagle with seemingly no power limits. There's like no goal or anything either. Snoopy Come Home had different scenarios to make a conflict. It's apparently supposed to be a parody of Call of the Wild, an adventure novel written by Jack London, published in 1903, which has had 7 movie adaptations given that it's public domain. And spoiler, I don't know anything about that, but I don't think any child would recognize that, considering it's a What the Dog Doin' special with a clear demographic of children. So I guess the moral of the story is, don't eat 5 pizzas and drink 3 root beers. But that's giving it too much credit. It's completely inaccessible if you don't know the source material, and it's not really a sparing parody adaptation because it's just What the Dog Doin'. Only Charlie Brown and Snoopy appear. There's like 2 cast members throughout. This one being mostly silent, I imagine it was much easier to actually write. Adults' legs are seen. That's how you know it's an imagination. It's just the peak so far of Snoopy Dick Brown plot lines. But at the end of the 70s, we got You're the Greatest, Charlie Brown, and what does that title tell you about the plot? Oh, what could this possibly be about? Another sports special. Oh boy, Scooby-Doo Laugh Olympics ass conflict. Sports training scenes over and over again. Like, I get the characters are children, there's only so much you can do, but why sports again? But kicking off the 80s, we got She's a Good Skate, Charlie Brown, a special focusing on Peppermint Patty and Marcy skating, with Snoopy as the coach. Despite what the title implies, Chuck barely appears. There's a skating competition that thankfully only takes up the last 6 minutes, not stretching the climax to a damn eternity, but it's just a competition plot with extra emphasis on preparation. There's worse Peanuts competition plots. It's unique enough, but there's really nothing glamorous. Also, adult cashier hands. But the second project of the 80s was the 4th Peanuts feature. Bon Voyage, Charlie Brown, and Don't Come Back. Paramount once again distributing the film. The film involves multiple cast members being selected as foreign exchange students to go to Europe. Finally, I can say who was in Paris. Going to various European locations without a consistent objective. It's not like they got stuck there, it's just a series of scenes in different countries. It's a new location with some unique things to do, but not much happens. There's variety without cohesion in plot, making it appear as a pointless general lack of a consistent objective. Well, there is one objective. They're trying to meet the foreign exchange student, who we spend like half an hour getting relating to. But you just kind of forget that because the gang just goes to random places for an eternity. Then they go to school and there's just nothing to justify the feature-length runtime, not really creating any significance from traveling the world. Like there's one funny scene of Snoopy at the bar being a bipolar alcoholic.
It's been a long, long time. If you ever go down Trinidad.
Peppermint Patty likes a French kid instead of Chuck. There's also sort of an antagonist. The owner of the chateau Charlie Brown is staying at. And like, he's not even introduced until like 52 minutes in, bare minimum of a third act conflict.
They are still at the chateau tomorrow. I will have to take steps and do something. I'm going to have to get rid of them in my way.
Mr. Enter never even tells them to leave. It's such a questionable motivation. I guess it's implied that he's willing to try and murder children for trespassing. But there's like a twist with zero foreshadowing that, like, Charlie Brown's grandfather was stationed in France in World War I, which I guess is the first instance of a child's parent being seen, although grandparent. And the chateau catches on fire for some attempt for suspense.
In honor of American guests, we will conduct classes both in English and French. In the morning, it will be in English, and the afternoon class, it will be in French.
Yeah, this is really when they stopped trying to keep the adults anonymous, but not completely. Completely inconsistent from now on. Sometimes they do it, sometimes they don't. I guess it really boils down to convenience of scene execution. Then I'll just go back to the anonymous later. Pretty nothing with an insulting finale, not as boring as pointless as Race for Your Life, but this did not need to be a movie at all. Later that year in 1980, we got Life is a Circus, Charlie Brown, because the circus, that's what kids in 1980 give a fuck about. So Snoopy is in love with a poodle and he joins in a circus in a hope to get her attention. Charlie Brown being upset over Snoopy seemingly abandoning him, rehash he's your dog. And Snoopy participating in a traveling circus because what the dog do in the circus edition. This also marks the animated debut of Belle, Snoopy's sister, because it's not a marketable character without a gender swap equivalent. I say sort of because here Snoopy is cross-dressing as her design, first appearing in the comics in 1976. Due to her appearing in merchandise more than the comics, from my understanding, she is often believed to be Snoopy's girlfriend instead of his sister. In fact, there exists Snoopy wedding merchandise where he's getting married to his sister. The merchandise seemingly further increasing this sister misconception. The circus-trained conductor is also visible, as well as a few other employee adults. The child actor Snoopy performs with does nothing interesting and could have been unique from a unique position. But what makes Snoopy decide to leave the circus just being a lame gag resolution? He doesn't want his fur to be dyed pink, so he leaves. No, awful be bad. Ha ha ha. Get down to gloom the little clowns away. 0 out of 10. But the next year we got It's Magic, Charlie Brown. So Snoopy becomes a magician and half the special is just what the dog do in Magic Edition, and the tricks are real and he turns Charlie Brown invisible, so now he has to figure out how to reverse it. It just being the same lame invisible jokes you've seen 1,000 times.
Yikes! Who's me?
Me, your brother. My dog made me invisible. No one can see me even when I'm here.
We've gotten to the point where the laziness is canonically illogical. Yes, obviously children are more intelligent and Snoopy is anthropomorphic, but if you're just gonna have real magic, you might as well just have talking dogs. Two lazy plots tied together. Oh, but the next one, Someday You'll Find Her, Charlie Brown, is even more questionable. So Charlie Brown is watching football and he sees a pretty girl on the TV and he wants to meet her.
Linus, did you see? Linus, I just saw the most beautiful girl in the world.
So Charlie Brown and Linus are like stalkers now. I'm not making this up. I wish I was joking. So they have to go find a random girl, including researching public records, going to houses, stalking others' families, calling strangers, traveling out of the city. Then they find the girl and she likes Linus instead, so the moral of the story is stalk the girl you like and you'll get your way, Fred the movie style. But the next special would be a Charlie Brown celebration, a special consisting of a series of shorts. The opening to the special featuring a rare on-screen appearance of Charles Schultz himself.
Naturally, there will be Snoopy and Woodstock, Charlie Brown, Lucy, Schroeder, Linus, Peppermint Patty, Marcy, the whole Peanuts gang. So Welcome to...
The first short consists of the gang returning to school after summer vacation, sort of like it was a short summer without the camp flashback. The second short is about the winter, and the third is about Lucy failing to get Schroeder's attention, and the fourth is about baseball. Like, there's no title cards or anything, you just have to expect when a new plot begins. Not much of an anthology either, like they don't really connect. It's just random rehashings of things that have already been done with zero explanation, presented as an experimental concept. Like, no wonder they got Charles Schultz to appear at the beginning to explain what the hell this even is. They knew they f***ed up by just doing whatever because they had no movie ideas. The next one actually has potential in a concept that it utilizes. Is This Goodbye, Charlie Brown, featuring the conflict of Linus and Lucy having to move away because of their father's employment, with the emphasis on emotional dissatisfaction, which actually has a consistent, unique conflict that is committed to. Actually having a sense of drama for the first time in a fat minute. Like, obviously it has a fake-out ending, the characters aren't gone or separated permanently, but that's a concept given, so it's not a huge issue. But also in 1983 we got It's an Adventure, Charlie Brown. The CBS bumpers are more well documented. Just a lame short anthology, that's how bad this has gotten. But in 1983, seemingly because of the success of the, quote, experimental series of shorts, and the fact that the specials were basically 22 minutes, meaning we got basically a episode or two of a show a year, the Charlie Brown and Snoopy Show, also known as You're on Nickelodeon, Charlie Brown, when aired on Nickelodeon, was a series of 1 to 5 minute sketches adapting comics, titled The Charlie Brown and Snoopy Show for marketability, which of course, in comparison to the specials, have done some of the same jokes and concepts. But here, the shorter runtime is a disadvantage. It's also a plus from limiting the expectations of something special because it's a TV special. Feeling more like a show, sure, but it's not a great show either. They're not quite motion comics because of the extension of the animated shorts, but this also bent the rules of presenting adults far more often and featuring rerun more frequently.
Spike, good grief. You're as thin as a promise.
And marking the animated debuts of Snoopy's first siblings. It's watchable, but it underperformed in comparison to the special format, possibly because it was just too short. It probably would have done better in the age of YouTube as short YouTube videos. So even if the show wouldn't last long, the special format would continue, speaking of continuing, because Bon Voyage was so great and not a pointless, boring pile of shit. It needed a TV special sequel. I guess they couldn't get a 5th movie off the ground, so I guess they just thought to further conclude the movie. It's like the first act of taking an asinine attempt to get to a location again, but at least does have some experimentation with utilizing war footage and audio of Dwight Eisenhower.
Beaches, for one purpose only, not to gain anything for ourselves, not to fulfill any ambitions that America had for conquest, but just to preserve freedom, systems of self-government in the world.
So I guess it's a D-Day memorial special because France. It's just a randomly tacked on into follow-up of Bon Voyage, probably just an attempt to score educational brownie points from parents. I respect its attempts to demonstrate the values of valuing military veterans, but the special has no substance. But they didn't even bring all the stupid forced Charlie Brown's grandfather back, despite mentioning the World War duology multiple times. So it even wastes potential of something that doesn't even need to exist. But it did win a Peabody for Distinguishable Achievement in Moratory as Public Service, because of its war history aspects, which are commendable but not really good. But 1984 rolls around, break dancing is all the rage, so obviously we needed a break dancing special. It's Flashbeagle, Charlie Brown.
Wait a minute. Drop an old school beat.
The special consists of loose plot points of either unrelated dick around and breakdancing, pandering to the youth of 80s. That's dancing without plot because gnarly, dude. Like, it's bad 80s music, not the good kind, mixed with poor youth choir songs. As you can imagine, the songs are awful. How do you do, my fellow kids? It's like that shit make you sing in like 5th grade music class 80s edition. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Like, at least they made vocal songs, unlike a lot of them after Vince Gualdry's death.
Hold down, step your heels, jump up and down, shut your eyes and whirl around.
Snoopy goes to a nightclub and there's adults, which is probably the most famous example of the rules being bent. Awful, dated, beagle shit. But I guess Snoopy was pulling a hella bitch from his Flashbeagling. Literally bitch. In Snoopy's Getting Married, Charlie Brown, thankfully not to his sister, but to a poodle named Genevieve. When it's not lazy what the dog doing humor, it's preparing for the wedding that doesn't happen because Snoopy's fiancé is a bitchy bitch. Complete waste of time. Peanuts, like a lot of things you wouldn't expect, has had a musical Broadway adaptation. 2 of them, which the team on TV eventually decided to adapt as animated specials, the first of which being You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, which was created by John Gordon. But John Gordon isn't a dude, it's a collective pseudonym like Bon Jovi, referring to the actual soundtrack writer, Clark Genzer, and the soundtrack original cast members. Genzer had begun developing music based on the Schultz characters in the early 60s, but was unable to receive permission from the United Feature Syndicate. He eventually got his demo sent to Schultz, which he surprisingly loved, allowing a professional recording. Genzer himself would voice Linus, the live musical starting in 1967. Joe Raposo would additionally compose incidental music for the show. After the show's run, he would be renowned for his work on Sesame Street and The Great Muppet Caper.
Sing a song, sing out loud.
The show would run for most of 67 and 8. But by 1985, the team was clearly out of ideas and was clearly incapable of writing good songs since Goaldry passed and if Flashbeagle is anything to write home about. The official You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown adaptation would have a 43-minute runtime, longer than any of the other specials at the time, but still overall shorter than the play. Some recordings on YouTube span from 90 minutes to nearly 2 hours. One major change the musical would make is that Snoopy's thoughts could be heard, much like the original Garfield.
It is truly a dog's life. The least Charlie Brown could do is start my day with a little tea and toast.
Not really having a plot, but that's not really a bad thing for once, since it's consistent with its emphasis on a day-to-day journey as it should. Not really overly relying on Snoopy random humor. It's kinda actually like Flashbeagle, but with substance. You could tell the source material was from a different era too, with characters like Schroeder getting more focus than Peppermint Patty, and the little red-haired girl remaining anonymous. Also formatting the songs around running gags like Lucy's desire to exploit Schroeder's career success and Charlie Brown's inability to fly a kite. The show would come back on Broadway from 1998 to 99, and after 2016, it would see a non-Broadway revival, but on TV, we went back to holiday specials, with Happy New Year, Charlie Brown. With Peppermint Patty throwing an epic blowout party, but Charlie Brown wants to do homework and dance with a little red-haired girl and not Patty. And nobody Flashbeagles, thankfully. It's pretty forced for a New Year conflict, which could be a result of any get-together. It does nothing unique, but at least there's no, stalking girls. The ending is actually solid of Charlie Brown overworking himself and falling asleep, missing Heather's appearance.
With your friend, the little red-haired girl. He did what?
He actually learned something. Barely a New Year's special, but fine. But the next special afterward would adapt the second Broadway musical based off Schultz's creation, Snoopy the Musical, which debuted in 1975. And you could tell it came out later because Snoopy is in the title. John Gordon was not involved. These were written by the visions of the playbook writers Warren Lockhart, Arthur Whitelaw, and Michael Grace, the lyricist Hal Hackaday, and the composer Larry Grossman. This one being far easier to get off the ground given that Peanuts had success in the musical department already, further retaining elements of Snoopy's thoughts being audible.
Yuck! Dog lips!
Sit up, lie down, roll over, play dead. What I need is a change.
Snoopy is dissatisfied with being treated like an actual dog, taking advantage of Charlie Brown's previous questioning as to why does my dog act this way, also retaining many of the qualities of the previous but definitely not as good, but being in line with the identity of the franchise, which is kind of rare at this point. The musical also building musical numbers off of familiar plot points like The Great Pumpkin and Snoopy being a writer, also sparingly incorporating a live-action stylistic decision and an added sense of imagination that we may need as a musical audience. This is also the first time we see the Van Pelt's mother, not her face, but a parent of one of our child characters is just a rarity in general.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if everybody believed in everybody?
The most recognized song would have to be Just One Person. This is notable because it was a favorite song of Jim Henson's. The song was performed by the Muppets in 1977 during Bernadette Peters' guest appearance on The Muppet Show.
If just one person believes in you, deep enough and strong enough, believes in you,
which was the first of various Muppet covers even being performed at Jim Henson's funeral.
Making it 3. People you can say, believe in me.
So if you recognize just one person, just know that it actually originated from Snoopy the Musical. The Muppets performed it on TV first, basically stealing the spotlight of the excellent number. You gotta lower your expectations a little. It's not better than the previous musical, but it works. And in 2013, a third Peanuts musical would be released, titled A Charlie Brown Christmas, being a musical adaptation of the original special. But afterward, we got It's the Girl in the Red Truck, Charlie Brown, which is just fucking bizarre. It's the first attempt at making a animation live-action hybrid about Spike, What the Dog Doin' Yeehaw edition. This came out the same year as Roger Rabbit, 1988, which may have influenced it, but Roger Rabbit didn't create that format, so it could just be a coincidence. But it came out in September of '88, and Roger Rabbit came out in June. So they could have thrown this together in a few months. It's clearly on a shoestring budget. Not enough for the hybrid medium genre. Spike only grabs cartoon objects off screen because him picking up an actual object clearly wasn't in the budget. His microwave Walmart animated pancakes are caught up by an animated tumbleweed. There's nothing to be amazed by. At least there is some attempt at shading consistency. Cough cough reanimated. Spike lives in a live-action desert, and there's no cartoon world, human world separation. And the specials have minor continuity, so that just means that there's just a live-action part of the Peanuts world. But Spike is in love with a girl who drives a red truck. Stupid-ass Spike thinking women should be allowed to drive. The whole special is Spike and some random girl screwing off in the desert in random locations. Random Girl is actually played by Charles Schultz's daughter. Not much of a plot, but I guess you're supposed to care about the romance. Imagine being in 2nd grade and talking about Snoopy, and you say that your favorite character is Random Live Action Girl. My 2nd grade teacher's name was Mrs. Schultz, and my elementary school then had a bunch of Peanuts crap like Snoopy reading posters. And Mrs. Schultz had to constantly elaborate that she was not related to the guy that made Snoopy because his signature was on everything. Oh, sorry, I'm just distracted because this special is boring and weird and not in a good way. Spike is super emo because girl has a human boyfriend and she doesn't want a doggy style with a doggy. And Spike isn't even like a troublemaker or an asshole. A cartoon dog is there, but there's no comedy. Not a lot of drama is tearing either. Okay, well, there's one roller skating scene that's like the only attempt at a funny dog scene. And the chances that you know what it is, I'm sure it has its defenders on its unique aspects. But on the opposite, Why Charlie Brown Why actually takes risks and doesn't crash and burn unlike the previous. The plot involves a character specifically created for the special, Janice. Janice develops leukemia.
Well, it wasn't just the fever. I have cancer. Cancer?
The idea of this plot suggestion being from a registered nurse at the Stanford Children's Hospital, named Sylvia Cook, making a PSA. The Peanuts cast have been utilized in a small number of PSAs I didn't mention earlier, including Keep the Torch Lit, advertising the campaign of the 1986 restoration of the Statue of Liberty, which was held from 1982 to 1986.
Box 1986, New York. Or call 1-800-THE-LADY. It would make me feel a lot better. Say it, gang! Keep the torch lit! I love her.
A pollution PSA from the American Lung Association, a respiratory health charity.
Now I'm losing games because of pollution. Don't let pollution ruin your game or your lungs.
And multiple PSAs for the American Boy Scouts.
Some skills, climb some hills.
There have also been a handful of educational short films, a little more than quick television PSAs, including Toothbrushing and its sequel, It's Dental Philosophy, Charlie Brown.
And if you don't clean all the plaque off, it can cause decay and gum disease. My dentist and dental hygienist told me all about it, and I floss well every day. I'm going to floss now before I go over to see Schroeder's concert.
As well as Clean the Air, a pollution short film.
I'm depressed about all the polluting and littering.
What do you mean?
In 2021, a series of well-being educational shorts, Take Care with Peanuts, would release on the official franchise's YouTube channel, with over 30 installments continuing to this day, the most recent being about 3 days ago as of writing. The foreshadowing is actually excellent, consisting of progressive injuries that a child may overlook.
Ouch! Now we'll have another bruise. Look, I cut myself last week and the bruises are still there.
not realizing the physical health deterioration, visiting Janice in the hospital and learning the concepts associated with her disease, being set over the span of multiple seasons of a year, displaying the varying states of her condition and the passing of time, sparingly combining education and drama.
Pretty cute, does it, Fly? It needs a propeller. Hey, maybe it'll fly without a propeller. Hey, look at this, a Baldy!
Especially with the misunderstanding of the contagiousness in the disease, the presence of bullying, and displaying her siblings. I love the incorporation of the hymn farther along. It's a sparing use of a song cover, fitting the themes. It's also the first biblical reference in a fat minute. Getting to this one was a deep memory unlocked. I remember hearing about it on like a top 10 darkest episodes lists from like 2016. I'd never actually seen this one outside of bad clickbait videos. But besides that, I've never really heard anyone bring this up. Probably because cancer is far less marketable than Christmas or Halloween, but it's honestly one of the best.
Motherfucking Easter Sunday. Back in the day, there'd be at least 3 drive-by shootings and a visit from the Jehovah's Witness by now. Nothing exciting ever happens anymore.
Easter Sunday! Time to collect my eggs and prove that mother line is wrong. I swear you was born out your mama's asshole because her pussy was too busy.